Get you not to talk about.
We're on a roll tonight. I played the wrong intro. Jordan's not here. He's sleeping somewhere. I knew I hit the wrong one, but
at least we started on time. Yeah.
At least, and we didn't start on time. That's my fault, and thanks to my wife as well. She's amazing. It's just like, and I should have said that, right? I should have stood up in the middle of the argument and been like, "You wait till the podcast time to start this conversation and have a breakthrough,"
which is not not something you should say. Right.
You know what? Maybe I need to put it out there. No arguments to take place or start between March 1st and 6th. Because if it bleeds into like the showtime,
that's a tough one. I wish I was smart enough to do that. Yeah, I should be like, hey, listen, no arguments. We can argue afterwards.
I'm gonna put the video on Jordan's wall. Richard, what should we do first? I mean, Joe Rogan. Like, I feel like
we don't have to talk about Joe Rogan at all. We could talk about so many other things. Actually, I feel like everything I want to bring up, you're going to say, I didn't watch it. So a year ago today, in our memory, or the last week or so, when I look back on my Facebook memories, a lot of, a year ago was when we really started doing a weekly thing, doing, WandaVision, and then Star Wars. And we were doing a bunch of things, and we, excuse me for forgetting. So we were on a roll of pop culture, and you weren't working at Philly yet, right?
I wasn't getting smacked around by work.
Right, you weren't getting smacked around by work. You had that kind of I don't know what to call it. Free. Yeah, you had that freedom where you were coming to the podcast with I've got 80 questions for you. We're going to do a Harry Potter podcast, and I've got 80 questions for you, and and then when work came, our podcast is kind of just it's two guys talking, and but so over the past year, like I say, the first 6 months, you were, the most that would happen is you'd have to take I'm behind by a week, but I'll catch up. So now I feel like if I said, hey, have you seen any of Peacemaker?
Nope.
Have you seen any of Hawkeye yet?
Nope.
Have you seen the Book of Boba Fett?
No. Oh, but I will say that I am going to be left out of the surprises by the time I get around to it. I got to be honest with you. Book of Boba Fett. I know that Boba Fett's one of those.
Lightning rod, is that the word?
Maybe
word. Go ahead. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I was gonna say
polarizing.
Yeah, but one of those background characters that he's in the movie for maybe this whole trilogy, 30 minutes total, right?
I'm gonna Google it because I've been trying to say it for the last few weeks, because I keep saying here's this guy who was in the original trilogy for
30 minutes.
If that, right? Yeah. How long is Boba Fett in original Star Wars? 6.5 minutes. I knew it was 7 minutes. 6.5 minutes, with some of that time being just background, just standing in the background, and he is
dead.
Right, and he is absolutely the most popular Star Wars characters.
100%.
For 6.5 minutes of screen time in 2 movies, dies really quickly. And that's not even a spoiler for anyone. Dies really quickly into
doesn't do anything cool,
right? And honestly, again, this is where I wish we had a fan base of thousands who could immediately attack me. He really it's one of those things. I'd be curious when you show the images of him from the late 70s, early 80s to young kids today. Do they think he looks cool? You know what I'm saying? He's got a backpack with a rocket coming off. But for whatever reason, we thought he was amazing. We wait forever. He's got his own Disney Plus show.
Hold on a second, Richard. I'm sorry. Sure. Hey, Jordan, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you send me the link?
Oh yeah, I'll send you the link. Hold on.
Yeah, it's going to be on you.
Hold on, I'll send you.
Actually, we hear him better. I think we hear him better that way. If that's.
But no, keep going because you're on.
Okay. While you're doing that, So, Book of Boba Fett ran in late December in place of Mandalorian. Mandalorian as we've discussed in this podcast before, ran for 2 seasons, really, really helped Disney Plus get off the ground, was immensely popular both years it ran, and kind of announced, like, we're going to take a year off on The Mandalorian and have Boba Fett standalone series happen at the end of December.
Great intro.
And it was crickets. It was crickets up until a week ago, but it was crickets. Those first 4 episodes, just crickets. I'm not seeing anything on social media. I'm not even seeing negative. It was just like crickets, and it's picked up in the last few weeks. But it was just really interesting. And again, close your ears if anyone wants to hear.
Spoilers.
In the last 2 weeks, Mandalorian's been in the episodes. He wasn't in the first 4. He's been right, and suddenly, social media blew up. Like, Mando's back, So
you're right. It was crickets. I actually saw some negative reviews too. I saw people on like multicolored speeder bikes saying there was nothing Star Wars about it and stuff like that. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, sorry.
Bear with us because Richard's on a Boba Fett roll. So spoilers.
Right, and if anyone, right, we probably should have Jordan say hello for a little bit just to see if anyone can actually hear him.
So, hey, everybody, hopefully can everyone hear me? Testing.
Tim,
testing.
are you watching? This is where Tim does our backup.
Am I? Okay. I was going to say, or is Jordan? Yeah, we'll see. All right. So yeah, that was all I really wanted to conclude with, is that it was just really curious how Boba Fett, and again, it speaks to about a year ago when we did a big Star Wars podcast of like, these fans are unique. Like, they have their opinions, and
tough too.
It goes from here's this guy who was in 6.5 minutes of movies who you loves, and now you've given him his own show and you're not happy so far. So we will see. Again, it's Jon Favreau. I trust in him to pull this out and hopefully fix it. So we'll figure it out.
I need the momentum to keep up, because I was one of those fans who was hurt by the trilogy. Didn't mind the first one, right? And without starting a whole Star Wars podcast, was like, okay, great reboot, right? Like, we got to wait a little bit to see what happens. Fine, this is an okay start. Second one, I was like, I don't really know what's going. I hope they tie these knots, and the knots never got tied, and I left the theater very disappointed. But Disney has delivered through Disney Plus. I'm ready for Rogue Squadron. Need to keep the momentum going. And where's what's his name who was in Rogue One, who's supposed to Andor?
Yeah, they're doing a whole separate thing for him.
But what happened to that? Didn't that just stop? I haven't heard anything.
I mean, from what I've heard, they said it's in production and it's coming out soon, but no dates from that. I mean,
it looks like it looks like it's last on the list. Gotcha. Like, it's Moon Knight. Like, it's come up because they're thinking it'll be either a Super Bowl commercial or clips of it will appear in a Disney Plus Super Bowl commercial.
That makes sense. I mean,
and again, I swear, I wish I had a better knowledge. Apparently, DC will have no Super Bowl commercials. It has something to do with Apple. I don't know it. Like, I read the article and it said because of their affiliation with Apple, DC will have no. Apple is once again choosing not to be part of the Super Bowl, so there'll be no DC commercial. Like, I was. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I might have just read an article. So, but that's what they said. There's no point doing a Batman, and then they don't want. Yeah, so Marvel.
Well, you don't need to do the Batman when you have the Little Caesars calzone. You're good.
I mean,
and every time I see that thing on Facebook, I'm just like, huh.
The only things that I'm really excited about for DC is obviously a new Batman movie, and everyone's talking about Peacemaker and how good it is. I mean, that's 2 real things I'm only really excited for. That's really it. So I don't.
It was you, right, that told me Peacemaker was the greatest show you've ever seen.
No, I didn't say greatest show I've ever seen. It's the best DC show I've ever seen.
Oh, that's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really good.
I mean, James Gunn did a really good job of this. Well, it was good writing, and all the characters seem like. Unfortunately, you see a lot of like comic book shows where the characters seem one-dimensional. The characters seem really complex, but also you can imagine spinning off to like X, Y, and Z amount of different things. And apparently, James Gunn is coming back to write another show for them on HBO Max as well, based off of another character for Suicide Squad. They haven't said yet, but it's just exciting that this is a fresh take on DC characters. and all the little tidbits about old school DC characters and like tying in, like making jokes about Batmite and joking around like Batman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Like, it's a great show, and it has that kind of like that weird comedy that you expect from James Gunn, but it's done really well, and it's completely different than what you've seen previous from DC.
Right, like the Harley Quinn cartoons are amazing, but people don't watch. Some people don't watch it because Harley Quinn. Excuse me, because it's a cartoon. But that's the only other thing I'm excited for is the third season of Harley Quinn. But yeah, like it's really neat for like the hardcore fan. Yeah, you're like, oh, that was a Batmite reference. Like, and I think they even make a joke of like, what is Batmite? And it's like, oh, it's an interdimensional. Like you should know, of course.
Yeah, the inside joke about Superman have a poop fetish too, which was funny.
Yeah, it's a home run, Ryan. You at some point when you get time we'll enjoy it.
So if for anybody who's listening, Jordan, we told him all week, Joe Rogan, you got to know your Joe Rogan stuff. Here he is, jumping right into the conversation. So we also have him because he's a good friend, and he's just adaptable. Like, he just was like, I'm just gonna flex. Oh yeah, Peacemaker, Batmite. Like, I know a majority. If you said Batmite, people would be like, is that like a new thing? People would have no idea where it stems from. So Jordan's just dropping knowledge left and right. That's why his Instagram is The Professor.
Because I constantly have useless knowledge. I mean,
that's useful. It's useful.
No, but yeah, remember in culinary school where everyone like, what are you talking about half the time?
Remember in culinary school where they would be like, you may take the test, and then you would just be like, I'm done. And I'd be like, I fucking hate you, dude. I studied for hours, and I'm probably still going to get a C. Meanwhile, you're just like, all right, so I'll see you guys at Chipotle. And I was like, just don't wait for me because I'm going to be a while.
Yeah, everyone used to get mad. They're like, Jordan's sleeping in class, but he's still passing somehow.
No, Richard, sorry, we don't mean to make this a throwback, but he would literally fall asleep in class. We would like throw stuff. Like, he would like, he was that guy.
Well, I was tired because I was working in restaurants all night and then getting up and being at school at 7 a.m. and being in cooking classes all day. What do you expect? Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You were making – Jordan would come in and be like, I only made $300 last night, guys. And we'd be like, we're poor college kids, so you keep doing what you're doing. But, okay, so let me ask, because so we touched on Boba Fett. We got our little nerd moment there. We're going to circle back. But I did have a few things that I just wanted to talk about, just because I feel like it'll make good conversation for all of us. I'm at the point where I kind of just don't understand the obsession with Joe Rogan. I feel like it's minute by minute updates. I don't get. Where'd Richard go? Where'd he go? He's there. Did he leave because I said Joe Rogan?
I was trying to blow my nose off camera.
But I mean, seriously, like this, Joe Rogan it has not been let go. Like, I don't know what's going on. But I mean, The Rock supported him. He backed out. Jocko Willink is supporting Joe Rogan. Some outlet I never heard about, platform Rumble, like literally never heard about until today. Richard just apparently they tweeted Joe and said that they'll do a 4-year deal for $100 million. So I don't know. What's everybody's take on it? Just their updated take. We won't spend too much time, but I'm kind of just like, this needs to just go. I'm over it.
Just calling back to what I said previously, it's all about the money. Spotify is not going to deplatform him until, like, I feel like they keep making excuses for him. I mean, I understand, like, you know, about COVID misinformation, and then it turns into people going through old clips and finding things where he's saying terrible things. And again, they're not going to, they have so much money invested in him. They're not going to shut him down until some, like either backlash is too much, or like they come to their morals and realize, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Maybe we should have done a little bit of background checking, or maybe watch a few podcasts before we gave this guy $100 million. But again, end of the day, it's all about money. They're not going to shut him down. They're going to keep apologizing, keep making excuses, because that's their cash cow. Because I was doing some research today, like, he basically, to put an ad on the Joe Rogan podcast in between that for Spotify, it's, you know, entry fee is $1 million. And like, they make a deal
to advertise on Joe Rogan.
Yep, $1 million. And part of the deal is if you want to get, advertisement during the Joe Rogan Experience, you give them $1 million, but also you have to, you also have to pay for advertisement throughout this app as well. So it's a great way to get people into, giving your company money and advertisement, but also you lock them into other contract or basically other advertisement deals just based off of that. So that's their bread and butter. And no matter what they say, I mean, I don't know how do you want to call it? Either they're distributing his content or they're his boss or how this relationship is working out. And at the end of the day, he has them by the balls because this is a situation where he controls it because he's bringing in the most money.
Yeah. I was waiting to see if Richard has something. No.
No, I do. It was Jordan was just. I'm trying not to reference Howard Stern like I did last week, but
no, it's good though.
But,
it's a
but
great
when you did that,
it really is.
But that was a great one because I'm remembering when Howard was starting in Sirius, like you'd have to buy. Oh yeah, you're going to get the Howard Stern commercial, and actually, I think it happens even for WIP, other radio stations here. Yeah, you can buy the commercial on our top-rated show, but you're also buying 10 more commercials in other shows so that those shows all seem supported, and but that's the vibe I'm getting, is just fascinating, like reading the comment sections, which I crack myself up because I will not click on the article. I just go to the comment section. I feel like to see the people who also didn't read the article but are giving their opinion. And again, like most fans of people, the Joe Rogan fans in those comment sections are like, leave our dude alone. It's announced that 130 some episodes were taken down because he says the N-word or the N-word is discussed on there. Which should just be a no-brainer. Like people's comments should be, hey, yeah, no, that is what it is. Even if it was, he said it 10 years ago, whatever, but he didn't say it 10 years ago, but regardless, the comment, but again, people are like, oh, the left agenda is trying to censor our man, like that. We're not censoring you because you're saying the N-word. Like that's not censorship. That's, that's deplorable. That's disgusting. I know some people don't like the word deplorable, but it is. Yeah. So I found the whole thing fascinating. And then again, when it's thrown at The Rock that, hey, dude's using the N-word, maybe you want to back off supporting him. Then you read the comment sections and it's like, oh, by the way, Rock, when you were a wrestler, you did a Chinese accent. You did, you said the R word.
Transvestite comments.
Right. You did a ton. You did a ton of things. And again, it gets down to this continual conversation we have on this podcast of getting, and again, it makes for great programming for us because we get to continue to discuss it. But it is just interesting that like people just don't understand. Like sometimes, and this is where I kind of stand on the Joe Rogan thing. Like, hey, The Rock has to address his past. Like everybody has something. You have to address your past, and it's about being aware of how your stuff affects you out there. And I often try to think of an example like that. It's going to hit Ryan in the right way. But again, and I can't think of one right now, but the idea is that if at some point, like, I'll just make something up. Let's say at some point, one of the boys develops a stutter. All right. And one of the boys has a stutter. All right. From that point on, the rest of your life, you're going to see comedy about stuttering in a different way, And again, by the way, that example doesn't even. Please, Jordan, chime in here as I'm not trying to speak for African Americans, but being made fun of for stuttering I don't even think comes in the same universe as people using the N-word or people mocking disabilities or people using the R word. Like
100%.
it is. And that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if either of you saw Whitney Cummings' comments. A lot of these comedians are kind of going like, oh, like it's hard to be a comedian, and it's not hard to be a comedian.
Harvey said it too, yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard to be a comedian. But again, what the idea here is you just have to, like, what are you making fun of? Like what you're making fun of. And, when we talk about Chappelle and when Chappelle sits down and he talks about life and things that affect him and happen with him, like, like you listen to Dave Chappelle, Jim Brewer, some of like the really good storyteller comics, like it's amazing stuff when you tell a story about what happens to your life, again, Jim Brewer has gotten into a lot of trouble and a lot of issues rather with people for his stances, but he will tell stories about his father and taking care of his sick father, and you'll just be rolling. He'll tell stories about interaction with people, you know. But when you start to be like, oh, hey, then this fat girl was there, you know, and then this fat girl was going to eat all the food, and then, you know, and then this R word was there, and then this F word was there. Like that's kind of the bone of contention here is this idea, you know, no one's trying to sanitize your comedy, but you know, it's just, you know, when you're ableist, when, you know, like, and again, like, and that's what's going to happen. But the second that like the elite white are made fun of, or like, like privilege is brought up, like that's when we get offended. And that's just this interesting aspect of to me. And I'm not even trying to draw this to Joe Rogan, because I will be honest, I've listened to 45 seconds of Joe Rogan. You know, I don't have a Spotify account, like, so I don't have to cancel my Spotify account. It's just, to me, it's that ownership of like, you don't have to be canceled. You don't have to stop doing your programming. But if someone points out to you like, hey, Ryan, last week when you said, you know, I liked your beard, Richard, I should have been more sensitive to, you know, like, and again, that's the point. If I said to you, hey, Ryan, like you made a comment about my beard, it made me feel uncomfortable. Like, I think then the onus is on you to either go, again, if you say F you, then you risk alienating myself and all the other bearded community out there, you know. But again, I'm coming up with a silly example, but that's exactly what happens. And, you know, and it's interesting how often people don't choose like, hey, you know what? I made some comments about beards last week, was in no way trying to insinuate anything. You know, I'll be more careful with my speech. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. No, and that's I'm not going to speak the rest of the show. Sorry.
No, I feel like you make a really great point. And I'm going to call back to what I said last week. And unfortunately, I don't know if anyone heard me, but it was like,
literally no one heard you.
But one of the points I made last week was, you know, you get like the whole, I think cancel culture, I don't want anyone to lose their livelihood, but you want people to learn from maybe saying these things. It's like, okay, you might say something because you don't really know much about it and it offends people. And the reason why they're offended because someone's ignorance about a situation. You can't just fly off the handle just saying things. And if you came out like, hey, I'm sorry, I want to take some time to learn about this and better educate myself so I don't say like this in the future, I feel like people will be more forgiving, but some people just double down. And the Joe Rogan apology about using N-word kind of just struck me the wrong way. I was like, there's no good way to say that. Like, I don't care what you're saying. I don't care if I don't care if you're literally reading the script from Django Unchained. I don't want to hear it. I don't think anybody wants to hear because it's such a terrible history with that word. And he was like, "Oh, I was trying to say it, and this is and this." And it's like, no, that's it. I'm good. Like, I can understand if you like. I feel like he's apologizing now because now old stuff.
Jordan. Okay, there you go.
If you said it. And then immediately like
now we can. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. But it was like one of those things like if he said it and immediately came out, I was like, hey, I went too far. I said this. I need to do better. That'd be different. But now you're apologizing or backtracking based off of people finding old clips of you saying some things that are offensive. And now you're like, okay, I got caught and now I'm apologizing. It feels less sincere and it feels like you're just, just saying it to go through the motions so you can get back to basically normal. And it's not okay. I mean, any situation where you say something offensive to somebody, like, I feel like there's certain things you can't say. I don't care what the situation is, but the reason why people get so upset because you're ignorance in saying things. And that's why I think it's one of those things that really bothers me. And I think cancel culture has a couple of things right. But again, at the end of the day, I don't want anyone to lose their livelihood. I want them to be able to learn and grow and be better people and not say dumb things like that. That's what bothers me.
Where do I hear you? Do I hear you? I might have to silence you real quick. Do you have headphones?
No.
Okay, so just hang in there. Wait. Do you hear me? Okay, no, I'm good. You're good. No, I didn't mean like Jordan. After giving that great speech, I'm gonna have to silence you. Sorry, but I thought that maybe I was hearing myself come out of
Ryan, you missed the entire point of what Jordan was saying.
But see, and this is something I was thinking about, and I think we're all guilty. Maybe guilty is not the word. I think we've all done it, right? Where and Jordan and myself and Greg, right? We. Sorry, Richard. We keep going back to
No,
college,
yeah, absolutely, it's great.
you know, Jordan Black, me Mexican, Greg Irish. There was some, like banter, right? Some jokes, but it was never offensive. Never ever used the word like that. And I think that's where maybe Joe Rogan thinks that he was right. Like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. And it's like, but like you just said, like you were very specific. And actually, I think that's a great way to put it. I don't care if you're reading the script from Django Unchained. I don't want to hear that word, right? And I think that's the point that Joe doesn't get, is that, like, listen, it's not that you can't joke with your friends behind the scenes. I'm sure you and Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart have a great time either on the mic or off the mic, right? But you've offended people. And to just say that you were doing this, that, or the other thing, like Jordan's saying, is you're not hearing what I'm saying. The word itself, even though it might not offend Chappelle, Kevin Hart, whomever, you're offending a lot more people, and you're not really taking the time to learn about it the way that you should. And I think that's one of the awesome things about Jordan, is that, and I always think about this, and I'll always own up to it. And I know Richard, has helped me with it as well. And Jordan, you did also. When Black Panther got nominated for an Oscar, and I went on Facebook, and if anybody from cancel culture ever comes after me, I posted, years later, and I meant it when Chadwick passed away, saying, like, now I get it. But when I had posted that I don't think Black Panther deserves the Oscar, Jordan commented and he said, when you and I get the time, we'll have to sit down and I'll explain it to you. Right. And right there. Perfect. Jordan wasn't like, motherfucker, this, that, or the other thing. He was just like, I'm going to. You could have, but you wanted to explain, and Richard has explained it as well, not just to me, but on the podcast. It's you were seeing somebody who looks like you on the screen. Young black kids were seeing somebody who looks like them on the screen. A strong, great presence. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. And it's something that I just didn't get, because I didn't get. Like, I didn't understand. I never lived through that. And after Chadwick passed away, and seeing what it meant to people, and people like you and Richard explaining it to me, and Richard, who's great about taking the time to learn about other people's mindsets and beliefs and things like that. Now I understand, and I openly admit that was an ignorant post, and I get it now. But people are very quick to say, and Monica yells at me about it all the time, and Richard, I'm sure you can relate, whenever I'm messing around with the boys, and maybe, I didn't mean to Superman punch them or whatever, I'm being exaggerating. But I go, I was just playing with them, and Monica goes, you sound like one of my students in middle school. You were just playing, right? And I didn't mean it that way, right? Like, listen, there's a lot I like about Joe Rogan, and there's a lot recently where I'm just like, oh, Joe, everybody's not wrong. But it has to be a little bit more than, well, I didn't mean it that way, or I was just playing with them, and that's kind of where I'm at with everything. Like I said, I'm not dismissing, defending Joe, which I think is something that people need to work on in general, which is just like, defend Joe Rogan. It's like, you can have a lot to like about Joe Rogan. You don't have to defend every single thing he does. And Joe Rogan, being as intelligent as he is, and great at talking to people as he is, maybe he could benefit from taking the next few weeks, months, whatever, to really educating himself on everything that he's been called out on in the last few days.
Well,
an interesting, and Jordan, you missed how Ryan, who was 10 minutes late to the podcast today, also opened the show with the wrong intro music. But he opened it up. But it ties into. But he did it for a reason, so it could tie into my point. There was a couple social media posts this week about people kind of calling out Candace Cameron, who is, a devout Christian. How could you be so close as a devout Christian? How could you be so close to, Bob Saget? Bob Saget did all this inappropriate comedy. Bob Saget did all this, horrible comedy. How is you as a Christian? And she kind of made this point of like, well, he was so important in my life. He was like a father figure to me, like it was almost like really like she didn't have to answer that. She didn't have to address that. Like, I'm not, and um, it's that idea of like, you're going to like what you like, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many different aspects, like Ryan and I, like we definitely disagree on certain aspects of the police, in
100%.
terms of that, and, but,
Can I
again,
pause
like,
real quick?
yep.
Sorry, and an episode that we never got to have come full circle, but Richard and I really took the time to speak with a friend of mine who's a police officer so that we could, me, I'm not one, Richard's not one, to get some perspective. I wish we could put it together. Maybe one day we will, but we took the time to, and I think you had a lot of great advice.
But yeah,
or thoughts.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing where it's like, all right, but again, like, hey, you know what? I've done 8 comic book sales on my own, and Ryan's been to 7, if not 8 of them. Like Ryan brought the whole family to my sale on Saturday. I think he spent more time getting them in the car than he was able to do spending time there. Like I know he would love to, spend the whole time looking for Batman books, but he also knows the weekends are precious. So like I like Ryan the person, but there's things that he likes that I don't have to like, and then again, this turns into an argument if Ryan's sitting here going, F you, Joe Rogan's the man. And here's the thing, like you can actually think that, but that's the thing, like, yep, I'm not listening to Joe. Jordan might not listen to Joe. And again, if I'm also not going to spend money to go to any sort of Joe Rogan thing that might come up. And the end of my rambling point is, but Ryan, and this is again, I honestly, like, one of the reasons that I don't know if we're friends. I'm sorry, I'm busting on you. But no, one of the reasons that I've become friends with Ryan, because again, one of my first memories of him, because Ryan's one of those people, and I apologize if I'm saying this the wrong way. Like, he clicks add friend on Facebook. Like when Facebook makes suggestions, he, it's like, oh, this person works with Monica, add friend. Like he hadn't meet me, right? He hasn't met me yet.
I've never met you.
Right. But that's, and again, and it's funny, like, there are some people are like, oh, I would never do that. Like, no, like Ryan's taking social media literal and saying, yeah, it's social media. I'm supposed to connect with these different people. And again, one of my first memories of him is that Black Panther post where, again, if when the anniversary comes around, if you share it, it's not bad. He doesn't say like,
oh no,
anything bad. He just says, I don't get it, and it was like, holy crap. And I remember I honestly, Monica and I are not super close. Like, we're coworkers, but I called her and I said, do you need an Uber? Do you need a Lyft? Like, I can get you out of the house. I can find a safe place for you to be. But she was like, no, I'm going to stick with him. And as he demonstrated earlier when he was talking about this, like, Ryan is someone who's constantly looking to grow, to understand, and I think that's a key to it. Again, as Jordan wouldn't be friends with him, but that's the thing. Like when you were talking earlier, Ryan, about, hey, you and your other classmate Jordan, you would, again, I shouldn't say this, but I don't think there's anybody who, when you have friends of different cultures, races like that, who, there hasn't been this ball busting, and ball busting often goes back to like, but the thing is, if Jordan right now said to you, hey, you know what, bud, thinking about that, now that I'm older, I wish that didn't happen, or I wish we had been a little smarter about that. If Jordan chose to say that, Ryan strikes me as the kind of person who's like, yeah, no, that sounds right. So like, you wouldn't just say to him, oh, get over yourself, dude. Like, and that's what I think is happening with a lot of these people, Joe Rogan supporters, a lot of the people who support anyone when they get called out for things. It's like, why is it so hard just to say, oh, you're offended by that? That's your choice. It doesn't bother me, but I think Blazing Saddles is one of the greatest comedies of all time, like absolute greatest comedies of all time. But they say the N-word so much in it. Again, I think Django Unchained is a great movie, so uncomfortable, but so again, so that's the point. Like if and I'm, that's the point. I can't fathom somebody sitting down for the first time today, my kids at 22, 24, like, kids of this generation, they're going to discover Blazing Saddles one day, and they're going to go on Twitter and be like, why is this a film? Like,
yeah.
Where, because Mel Brooks' entire purpose was to, was making fun of, mocking racism, mocking the people who are racist, and that definitely would be lost on someone today. Could be lost on someone today unless the film now suddenly has an introduction to it, like, this was made in the early 70s. The purpose was, but so to kind of wrap up my thoughts, like it's gonna keep happening, tomorrow, and we're gonna see it the next. We're going to see it this week with the Super Bowl. So, I said this last week, but now it's a week later. They're going to find something that somebody said who's in the Super Bowl. They're going to put up a picture. Joe Burrow has been playing in the NFL for 2 years. He was a super famous national champion quarterback in college. But somehow, somebody's going to find a video of him when he was 15, rapping in a friend's basement, and saying, like, they get discovered. And what's even crazier is, like, it might get discovered 10 years from now, and it comes out. And, again, it's on that person at that point to then own up to what they did, which I'm just shocked that more people don't proactively put stuff out and be like, hey, when I was a kid, I did this. I was an idiot, so.
Yeah.
No, I love that point. No, it was just, I literally was just at my 2 cents. I mean, I love that point. I mean, I feel like a lot of people and I like to bust Ryan's chops a little bit, but when I first met Ryan,
Hell yeah.
it was the first day of school, and they were asking everyone what their email was. Ryan's like, yeah, my email is rydaddy@gmail.com. And they're like,
I was a dad. My name's Ryan. Last name's Oppenheimer. I thought it was appropriate.
But it was so funny
Never
because
lived it down.
It was the first moment I met him. I was like, this kid, he's insane. Our teacher's just making fun of him. He's like, yeah, you need a more professional email if you're going to be in the sphere. But I mean, to add to your point, Richard, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think everyone tries to grow as they get older, but I feel like they don't I don't think a lot of people have that moment of reflection. Like, man, I was saying some crazy stuff when I was 11, 12, 14, 15, whatever. And again, those tweets might come out, and I think a good example. And some reason this video came up on my YouTube feed today, and it made a really good point, and it's perfect. It came up today. So I think it was 2015, 2016. Villanova goes to the NCAA championship. They win the championship, and one of their players, a point guard named Dante DiVincenzo, comes off the bench, scores 30 points, and helped them win the championship. Now he's playing for the Bucks. He's making millions of dollars, and it comes out that he had a bunch of tweets that he said some really wild things, but he was 11 to 12 years old. I mean, again, you're not thinking about that as you're obviously an adult now. Realize you're obviously a different person, and obviously your views have changed. But again, people see the things like, oh, why would he say that? And it's like, he was like 12 years old. Like, obviously his mind, the way he thinks now and the way he thinks like back then are two different things. And it's hard to hold people accountable for something he said like that. But I think a lot of people don't tackle it the right way, and they might, they're like, oh, instead of like apologizing, like, hey, I was young, very young person. Obviously, I wasn't thinking how they offend people as it does now. I do apologize, whatever. A lot of people just like, oh, like try to delete them, try to brush everything under the rug and kind of move past it. But unfortunately, and that's a situation, again, that might come up on Super Bowl Sunday. Someone might find some old tweets from Joe Burrow where he said some things, or he's rapping a song, or, somebody said, like, you can name a player and someone probably can find some dirt on him. But I feel like everyone now should have the mindset of like, hey, like, obviously I'm a different person then. I'm trying to learn and grow and obviously be better, and trying to open myself up to obviously what I did wrong previously. And I think everyone has this attitude. I think a lot of people have this attitude where they're like, they just kind of like brush it off, or it's in the past, it's dead. No, people are going to hold you accountable for those things now, and you do have to speak on those things. And I guarantee that's going to it should be the mindset going forward, but we'll see. Again,
it cracks. Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was no, I was just gonna say it's kind of, you just made me think, it's kind of social media is kind of a gift and a curse in a weird way, isn't it? Right? Yeah. Like a curse of that, like, oh, you said that, you wrote it in 2011, it's gonna come back and bite you in the ass, right? But people have never been more mindful of what they're saying, the way they're acting. Because, I mean, let's be honest, and the one thing that always comes to mind, I crack up whenever I see the meme. I'm telling everybody right now, right here, that I am guilty of engaging in ridiculous, relentless, probably very questionable banter in a Modern Warfare 2 chat room. But that was like just the era I was part of, right? And even when I was in that chat room, it was never something I would say in a grocery store or, in a circle of people that I was hanging with, unless it was my close friends who I was playing with. Just stupid, ridiculous. Like the first, and you've seen the meme, right? The first mix of curse words and derogatory things that could come out of your mouth, and then you were kind of like looking back, you're just like, wow, that was a really, really strange time. But now you can't say that. You shouldn't say that. You should be more mindful of what you're saying. And I think it's just, people go, everybody's so sensitive these days. It's like, no, everybody's kind of just expressing how they feel. Now, if we could have 10 million Jordans and Richards, and I don't want to say Ryans, but 10 million people who say how they feel and then are willing to educate themselves or help the person get educated on why this is not the right thing to say, or, the way somebody may feel, like just don't pig on it, leave it alone. That would be where you start to see things change, right? But instead it's, I'm being censored. You can't control what I say. It's like, nah, dude, you shouldn't say that. You never should have said it. Yeah. It's just, you can be held accountable now by the court of public opinion. I know we use that term as a joke, but it's the truth.
I honestly feel like I'm embarrassed for some of these actors and celebrities, publicists, like the Gina C situation.
Yeah,
like Gina, like like I'm stuttering because
you're always in recovery.
Yeah, like Gina, you made some comments. You compared what's happening with the mask mandates and the vaccines and stuff. You compared it to the Holocaust. People have reacted really poorly to that. Gina, you know what? I'm not in favor of mask mandates and I'm not in favor of vaccines. I am not backing off those opinions, but I see now that I should not have compared it to the Holocaust. That is a different, like that's such an easy, what an easy thing to say. You don't back off from your principles. Like I don't understand either of the things. Like I don't understand either the people who are anti those two things. I can't relate, but at the same time, since our last episode on there's a wrestler and he has a name. All right. And let's just see if you guys can guess that name.
Was he called The Rock, formerly known as The Rock?
He was not called The Rock. His name was, all right. You know what? This is embarrassing. This happens a lot with me, Ryan. Like I try to make a point of it. And then I'm like, nope. Jordan, I'm like, yep, nope.
Jordan, so, this is the pop culture show where we forget everyone.
Where we forget all the pop culture references.
I know that one.
Right. So Wrestler A has been wrestling for WWE for 15 years, but he hasn't been used much lately. So on Tuesday night, he asked for his release. He's granted his release. Full release. He can go wrestle. AEW, which is a new upstart wrestling brand. I'll be going to see them on Wednesday in Atlantic City. And so last Wednesday it's announced, oh my God, we can't believe Wrestler A is available. He's going to wrestle in a match on AEW tonight. All right. So Wednesday morning it's announced. Wednesday afternoon, again, this is a guy who's been wrestling for 15, 16 years on the WWE. Nobody found these tweets. Nobody found these old podcasts. But he's announced he's going to wrestle at like 9 a.m. And by noon, there's all this footage of him on podcasts saying the Holocaust wasn't real. Like when those concentration camps were just delousing, like it was horrible. Like, and then again, he made comments about aliens. He made other comments,
Shit,
but like and again, by 7:00 that night, he was fired from AEW. So like he now has this famous thing, like, let go by WWE, hired by AEW. Within 24 hours, he was fired, hired, and fired. And again, he came out later and was just, I think he kind of played the I was being silly or I was joking card, and he's got to do a little bit more than that. Oh, that's the other one. Sandy Hook isn't real, and so it's fascinating. Like, but in the same breath, like, so here's this guy, and again, he's lower level. He's not The Rock. He's, I can't even remember his name. That's how, popular he is. But here he has this accountability he has to go. But then apparently, and I'm saying apparently because I haven't heard it, like Ronda Rousey, who's a huge star for the WWE, just came back. She's also apparently made comments about Sandy Hook being actors. It's like, how is that not like something you deal with? Like, and again, Jordan has said it many times, not looking for you not to be able to put food on your table, but there are certain times where, yeah, there has to be an accountability. And I think of like the Holocaust statements are one, any sort of issues about slavery, or yeah, like, 24, so many families buried their 6-year-olds. Like, there is no, like, like, that's not even a little bit up for option that, like, oh yeah, they paid off those families and they just pretended their children. Like, that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing. Yeah. So,
and that's one of the things, and I mean this in both ways with every bone in my body. Okay, and people can disagree with me because I'm gonna follow up at that point. You can believe that. Keep your mouth shut in public about what you may believe or think. You want to believe it. You want to fall into a rabbit hole on Google and go down that black hole, and that's fine. Have those thoughts in your living room. Don't go say it out in public. Keep your mouth shut, right? Because at the end of the day, we cannot tell people how to think, how to feel, right? Don't act on those thoughts. Keep your mouth shut. Keep it back there. Like, it just blows my mind that people just really need to let out their thoughts and don't take people's feelings and emotions into consideration, right? Because it's one of those things. 9/11 wasn't real, and all these things that just weren't real. It's just like, okay, just go have those thoughts in your living room by yourself, and whatever the case may be.
No, and conspiracy theories are fascinating. They're fascinating because the person who comes up with the theory, like, they do their work, and so, like, yeah, you're right. Like, why would a plane cause the foundation to collapse? Like, you trick yourself for a second. You're like, yeah, why would that happen? And yeah, it would have required. Oh, wait, you're saying that there was 80,000 gallons of gasoline ordered from a company, and like, wait, and yeah, they do it again because if you watch a movie, you're entertained by that kind of storyline.
Yeah, it grabs you. Sure.
And again, but my repeated theme I bring up on this podcast a lot is the hypocrisy element, where like the same person who might say, "Oh, shut up about leave Joe Rogan alone," but like, "Oh, but I lost somebody on 9/11, so now I'm offended by a 9/11 comment." Like, I just wish there was less of that hypocrisy, like, and that's just kind of this overall decision to just, and I think we try to find the right verbiage here, yeah, if someone says, if someone says, "Hey, I don't like that one of the three of you has a beard," I will say this. The other thing I do without remembering name, by the way, the guy's wrestler's name was Brian Kendrick. It didn't matter if I remembered his name or not because, like, who's Brian Kendrick? But the other thing I really stink at besides remembering names is coming up with good examples. It is really comical to watch me teach sometimes because I'll be like, "All right, guys, think of this example," and the kids will at this point in the year be like, "You're going to say something about a cat." I'm like, "Yes," because I can't think of any other example. So imagine a cat walks into a room. But here's the deal, like, there's everyone has something in their life, and so if someone said, "Hey, Richard, I can't watch your video because your beard reminds me of someone in my life who I had a bad experience with," like, I'm not shaving. I'm not being like, "Okay, I got to shave," but I'm also like, I'm understanding that person's perspective, and same thing, like, yeah, like, the different things we talk about, the different elements we talk about. I brought up the example, I think, at some point early in the year of like Christmas Story runs 24 hours a day on TBS and TNT, and the final scene is kind of making fun of the Chinese waiters not being able to say fa la la la. Too many Asian people flipping around their TV that day. They don't, they hate that. They don't like that. Again, like, we don't have to cancel the movie. TBS and TNT, they run it for a reason. They run it because people just put that on and leave it on for 24 hours, So, but I'm not going to disrespect. Oh, get over it. They mean it. And I think that's kind of what our overall theme here is, like, respect someone else's opinion. You don't have to, like, oh, yeah, right. Like, if Ryan listens to Joe Rogan tomorrow, I'm not going to be personally offended, but at the same time, he's not going to tell me I'm an idiot for not listening to Joe Rogan.
I have a question, and then I'm sorry, I'm going to let George go.
Mm-hmm.
Did you put the mask signage on at the show, or was that the hotel?
That was Richard.
Okay, so that was Richard put the mask signage on at the hotel, and I'm using this as a sincere example. I'm not a fan of masks. I put my mask on. My kids put their masks on. I had
Not
nothing
all
else
your
to say.
not all your kids wear masks. I just
The
want to point
twins?
that out. Yeah.
The twin boys didn't put their masks on.
I actually told several people that today in work. I was like, yeah, I was a little worried about the mask issue. I was like, but only 2 people didn't respect it, and they looked alike, and they were under 2, so I didn't really want to push it on it. But I also said, but Jade wore a mask, and because, she's a kid who's just wearing a mask, and so she didn't complain, she didn't say anything, So,
No,
but go on.
No, and then it was your venue. I respected you wanted to post it. You wanted to have the mask there. It's not a mandate in the hotel. You wanted it. And I didn't think twice about it, right? It's your event. It's what my friend, how he feels, his beliefs. And I just was like, that's it. I support it. Let's go. Move on. You know what I mean? Even though I personally don't like them, but.
Right. And a handful of people didn't come, and let us know, like, hey, we're not going to make it because we don't agree with wearing masks. And again,
serious? I'm just curious.
Yeah, handful, and again, it's one of those things like for most of the, and I would say 150 so people walked through that door, and Shanna was right there at the door waiting to give masks if anyone forgot them. And only one, and it was funny. Most people, when you're like, oh, hey, you need a mask, they had them in their pocket. They threw them on. One guy was like, do I have to? And it was like, yeah. And he was like, okay. Like, it wasn't even like, but it's just that interesting thing of like, and you know what? It made me so much more comfortable. It made my comic book partner so much more comfortable. And Shanna, again, it's going to be like, as the mask mandates lifted in schools, it's going to be an interesting thing to see. Ryan tricked us into another podcast, Jordan, so run away. But again, it's going to be interesting to see, like, as the mask mandate lifts in school, like how interesting is it going to be? Because myself, I will wear a mask until I'm going to wear a mask in school until, like, there's no, we've gone months without anyone going home positive.
Yeah.
As that kind of thing, and in my own building, I feel relatively confident that all of my coworkers who aren't going to wear masks aren't going to say a word to me, But that being said, I could see 1 or 2 going, oh, why are you still wearing your mask? And then I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think the onus on me then is to not overreact and get pissy. Like, hey, like, it's pretty obvious, like, like, it's pretty, but, so that's going to be an interesting challenge, I think, over the next little bit, and also then handling it with the kids, because I think that's going to be a tough one. Those kids whose parents say, we still want you to wear a mask, having to, make sure that other kids aren't making them feel a certain way.
Right. That's going to be.
Maybe we could have you come in to be a guest speaker.
Who, me or Jordan?
Can I be honest? I would prefer Jordan, but you also. Actually, I don't know. No, honestly, Brian, you could, because you'd be like, hey, I'm not a fan of masks. Yeah, because again, I think you would just say what you said. Hey, I'm not a fan of masks. I'm not wearing a mask, but if your classmates want to wear a mask, why do you care? Like, who cares?
Why do you care, right?
Yeah, like, that's just
you conform to communism. No, I want to wear a mask because I feel safer. That's it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and and again, I've just been intrigued the entire time, like, trying to understand it, because this is one of those things I just cannot find a relatable note to, like, because people are like, oh my god, I can't stand sorry, I'm no way making fun of you, so because I'm not I'm not good at doing imitations. So hey, I'm Ryan. Oh, don't make me wear a mask. But that's the thing. I just, like, and again, because when I wear my mask, I've never once felt uncomfortable. I never once felt forced, but again, I don't know everyone else, and that's the thing. Like, and again, I know there's some people. And you see me with the whole vaccination thing too. Is like, that's where I've kind of come down to. When a person says, "I'm not really comfortable with the vaccine," I'm but then it's then when you hear people say, like, "I'm not a sheep. You can't tell me what to do," like, or, "Oh, I don't want to take your vaccine because it's got chips in it." That's when I start to be like, what's going on with that person? Like, I've been fascinated. Like the one thing that really lost me, and I'm sorry, Jordan. The one thing that really for monopolizing time, not for what I'm about to say. The one thing that really kicked my pants, and I don't know if you saw this, Jordan, too, is the anti-mask people, the anti-vax people who would share a picture of a lion and would be like, "I'm raising my kids to be lions and not wear a mask. You can keep raising your sheep." And that kick, and it was like, and they kind of followed that January 6th rhetoric of like, we're going to kick down doors and we're going to fight and we're going to kick butt until we get our way. And I'm thinking to myself, how did you all, just out of curiosity, how did you guys all respond to the Black Lives Matter movement? How do you guys all respond to, my that nice quarterback who took a knee? That nice quarterback took a knee, And again, I guarantee you that the person who shares the lion photo is watching a video of an African American get pulled over, and the African American says, "I don't have to show you my ID." And they're screaming at their screen, "You just got to comply, just comply." But when it came time to wear a mask, suddenly they didn't have to comply. That their civil liberties were being taken advantage of, So that was just kind of kicked me because I'm like, where, what happened? What happened that these masks made you feel persecuted? Also, like, be black for a day, not for a life. Be black for one day and tell me if you want to wear your mask now or what you want to choose. So that's my soapbox. I just broke underneath.
I thought it was a good soapbox.
No, it is. You made some really good points, and I agree with the whole mask thing. Like,
that was brought to you by Popeyes, Louisiana Kitchen.
No, but like my dad's an old school military guy. He was in the Marines for 10 years. And growing up, it's like you need to do the right thing no matter what the situation is, because you don't know what your decision might affect someone else. And that's always something that I've kept in the back of my mind. So when obviously had to wear a mask, it wasn't a big deal for me. And all these people would freak out and yell. And I'm like, it's hard enough to try to do the right thing every day. But then you think about like one person's negligence or one person's bad decision can obviously affect you negatively. And I have some older family members. I always think about their health. I think about my mom. My mom is like going through chemo treatment, and I think about what would happen if I walked into a place still wearing my mask and somebody violated that ordinance and came next to me and I got COVID and I gave it to my mom and something happened to my mom. Like, that's always what I think about and how my decision affected other people. So, I mean, again, it to each his own. Everyone can have their own opinion. I respect it, and I rather have a conversation with you, a polite conversation with you to explain why that's wrong. But again, that probably won't go anywhere. But the main thing for me, it's like you have to think about how your decisions affect people, and it just bothers the hell out of me when people are like, "Oh, I don't want to get a vaccine. I don't want to comply." And Richard made a really great point. If you see these countless videos of people of color being infected by the police, and people saying comply, and it's like that's all well and good, but when a police officer in that particular situation might not be following the law correctly, or maybe taking power into his own hands that he shouldn't be doing, and that happens to that person of color. It doesn't happen to that person that is saying, I'm not getting the vaccine because of whatever conspiracy, or I'm not wearing a mask because it affects my civil liberties. And it's like, if you understood how, if you had a little bit of empathy and understood that person's situation when they were going in, they're afraid for their lives, and they're afraid for how many other videos they've seen where that situation just gone south based off a decision that, a split-second decision that could change everything for them. I mean, it's one of those things that just bothers the hell out of me. I just want people to have a little empathy and understand. And Ryan, to go to your point earlier, and I want to kind of backtrack a bit. I think a good example of people just trying to understand, hopefully trying to understand each other, and now maybe some good will come out of it. I think the whole Whoopi Goldberg situation. I mean, she said something terrible on live TV. She's now been suspended for a couple of weeks, and one of the main people that, I forget what the position was, but basically wanted her to take some time to understand her comments, understand how what she's saying is offensive to people, and obviously understand the terrible things that happened in the Holocaust. And you can't just make a trivial comment and everything just be fine. You need to understand that. and you need to think about it. And she made a public apology, and it feels like she's taking the time to understand, obviously, the error of that comment. But I wish more people would do that instead of doubling down and oh, I don't need to do this. Oh, and going to your point, Richard, it's I'm going to believe what I believe no matter what, and you can't convince me otherwise. It's like, what happened to decency where you at least understand where other person came from? Again, as Americans, we can we can disagree on things, but we should commonly want the best for each other. I mean, how hard is that? End of the day,
and
end of the day, we just want the best. We just want the best. We want to raise our family, have our lives, and be successful in whatever we decide to take on. But it seems like everyone's so divisive nowadays, and especially over the most trivial things. If you don't think Sandy Hook happened, something's wrong with you. And to be honest, I don't think anyone here will ever want to see something bad happen to a kid, and to adamantly just deny it and say, "Oh, there's actors, oh, there's this," and it's like that. You're something. There's a disconnect there, and something's incredibly wrong. And to not understand what you're saying, yeah, that's a whole different situation. And the one last thing I wanted to say was, Ryan, to your point where tell people to kind of push that idea down or put it to the side, that doesn't do anything for anybody. I mean, I feel like, and this is my experience, I've dealt with situations with people, and you could feel that tension between you and someone else because they might not like you for X, Y, and Z reason. And I'd rather have you be upfront and say something about it so we can actually have a conversation, or we can at least address these issues instead of just trying to hide it and let that bubble underneath the surface. I'd rather have a conversation with someone that disagrees with me and be able to at least hopefully understand each other in a day. But if you hold that view back and you don't share it, and you just sit there behind a computer typing things on Twitter or saying hateful things on the internet, you're never going to understand someone else's side. And again, as much as I want to be able to convince that person and have that conversation, and then they might not have convinced them, at least we'll take the time to say hey, we're all in the same box. I want you to understand where my point of view. But end of the day, I know maybe not convince them. Maybe I won't even win them over. But at least they've took time to listen. Someone on the other side. And again, I feel like everyone complaining about the radical left is I would love to have a conversation with someone like that. I'd love to have a conversation and talk about these whatever views, because I feel like everyone's basing their views off of what they're finding on the internet or what they're seeing clips on YouTube or whatever. It's you don't we should just have a conversation and get it all out of the way, because I guarantee either side is not doing it. It's other people that are saying that other side is doing something, or trying to be divisive and put a wedge between everybody.
Yeah, I don't, and yeah, I would love to be able to have conversations with people. I think to your point is that not everybody will respond if it is no, this happened, right? And that you have to be strong enough to be like, okay, all right, you got it, all right. We don't need to know each other. You have a good life. You take care, things like that. And I was going to say something. I just want to say something real quick about my knowledge or what I know, because I know a lot of people are saying that Whoopi Goldberg should have been fired, this, that, and the other thing. And I said this on the podcast with Richard when I did the podcast on Bob Iger, okay, former president, Disney, CEO. He warned Roseanne numerous times at lunch on a personal level. He knew her as a friend. He was very close with her. She suffered from very, very bad depression, and he used to have to go to her house to pull her out of bed so that she could come to the studio and film. So Bob Iger did not just fire an actor or an employee. He fired a good friend who he had warned and said, I really need you to stay off Twitter. I really need you to stop making these comments. When she made the comment or tweet that she did, Bob sat down with the board. The board was looking at the same type of things that Whoopi went through with suspension, this, that, and the other thing. Bob, as the CEO, made the decision to terminate her, saying that we would hold any employee to the same standard. He noted that he had conversations with her, and she didn't follow through, and as a result, now she was terminated. I think that Bob is. Well, I know Bob is no longer in charge. Bob Chapek is in charge. I don't know how things are at the table now. I haven't heard Whoopi say anything that would warrant a warning yet. And as somebody who is Jewish, went to Sunday school, studied the Holocaust, lives in a Jewish family, I think that if she's taking the right steps to be like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I'm going to learn. I'm going to understand, which may, I know people say like, oh, that's just what they say. That's the PR. I'm going to take the time to learn and understand. To me, it sounds like something that really just got misconstrued, that perhaps she just legitimately did not have the knowledge and understanding. This is the kind of thing that will get me canceled later in life. When I say this, I could understand why she said it wasn't about race if you don't understand. And if she's taking the time to study and learn about it, I don't fault her. I don't think that she meant any harm or malice. Isn't Joy Jewish also, or something like that? Or she definitely knows Jewish people.
I believe, yeah. But it's funny that you said that, Ryan, because I thought the same thing. I could understand her like I could understand how she made that mistake. I could understand like in that split second when she was trying to say it was just white people fighting. Like again, it was wrong, but I could see that quick. Like she was trying to be like what she was going for. But yeah, no, it did not go well though. So
no,
this is gonna be. Go ahead.
No, say it seems like there's people on the team at the View that obviously I think care about her, but also want to educate her on obviously this matter and why she was wrong, and try to at least help her, at least instead of just like going immediately like, hey, you're fired. It's like, no, you need to understand why this is wrong. And I think it's a couple. I forget an article mentions two people that are on the View or kind of work for ABC that want to. I think taking the time to actually help her understand the error of this. But again, it just takes a little bit of time to understand someone else's point of view.
100%.
So this was a really good and serious episode. Yeah. So I think next week, instead of, or 2 weeks from now, instead of talking about just talking about Batman, we should have the serious discussion. Are you caught up on Peacemaker, Jordan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think I sent Ryan this clip, like where Peacemaker says, like, Batman's wrong for not killing his villains. And I'm someone I'm not for the death penalty, but it's weird. Like, I'm not for the death penalty for, an 18-year-old kid who was involved in a drug deal and shot 3 people, like I want them to have a consequence and all that stuff. But yeah, like the Joker killed 50,000 people with some gay, like the Riddler's, like when Bane blew up a stadium. Like, I don't know. I don't know why. And again, our viewers can tell me why I'm wrong, but I could get behind the Joker being executed. Like, I could actually be like, yeah, I'm okay with this because he's not going to reform. Some of the Batman's worst. Because again, he also has a bunch of like. The Penguin just wants to make money off of things. The Riddler just wants to steal things, right? Yeah,
the Riddler publicly executed somebody in a chamber in a slow, painful manner.
Right. So, so it'll be curious to see how the new Batman, 3-hour-long Batman, addresses that. So
Jordan, you're coming. I forgot to invite you. I'm inviting you now.
Thanks.
We're aiming for sorry guys, we're making plans live now. We're aiming for March 4th or 5th, everybody, and then we'll come back and we'll be like, okay, I gotta watch Peacemaker. So in 2 weeks we're talking Peacemaker and maybe Ryan might be caught up with Boba Fett
and Batman preview. Let's do 2 weeks. Peacemaker and Batman. And what are we expecting from Batman? Because I don't know. You won't get done Boba Fett in 2 weeks. So
is it long? It's long like that?
No, it's not. It's not long, but you spend too much time.
I might not yet.
Yeah, you personally, you spend too much time at your job. So
we're aiming to be back here February 21st, and it'll almost be March at that point. Oh my
it's
goodness.
President's Day.
Oh, it is. I'm off.
So,
All right, so I agree with Richard. I think this is we said Joe Rogan because it was a topic, but it turned into a really awesome conversation.
By the way, I totally forgot that next Monday was Valentine's Day. Like we should probably be off. We should probably not have done.
No, honey, I gotta just we wrap this up.
Listen, Shadow made reservations for downtown Philly. Like, no, sweetie, sorry, that's good, but yeah, sorry.
But no, great conversation. It looks like everybody could hear us. Otherwise, I just would have had to.
Yeah, no one said anything. So.
I hope. I don't know.
And at the very least, if it was just a very nice conversation between three people. So thank you.
I agree. All right, everybody. We will see you in 2 weeks, and we will come back with Peacemaker and the Batman. Bye-bye for now.